History is written in blood and sweat, not in luck. Stop for a second, just 1 second. Alex Eala has just become the first Filipino in history to be seated at Wimbledon. Not the first in this decade, not the first in this century, the first in the entire history of the most prestigious tournament on the planet. 100 and something years of history, and no one from the Philippines has ever stood in that position. Until that 21-year-old girl set foot on the grass of SW19 with the title of seed number 29. Many people will say this is a story about luck, about timing, about opportunities coming at the right moment. Completely wrong. This is a story about someone who did what no one thought she could do, and did it again and again until the world had no choice but to acknowledge it. 3 weeks before Wimbledon, in Berlin, Eala stepped onto the court as a wild card. No one paid attention to her the way they paid attention to Elena Rybakina, the former Wimbledon champion, world number 2, whose serve makes even the most seasoned players' hands shake. That match, theoretically, should not have been a battle, but Eala won, 7-5, 6-4, after being broken first in the first set. Then, 24 hours later, she defeated world number 8 Elina Svitolina, 6-3, 6-4. 2 consecutive top-10 victories on grass as a wild card at a WTA 500. This is not hype, this is data. Eala's 2026 grass season, 9 wins, 2 losses. Champion of the Birmingham WTA 125. Deep run in Bad Homburg. Defeated Donna Vekic, the reigning Queen's Club champion, on her way to the Berlin semifinals. And now she stands here, seed number 29, ranked 30th in the world, ready for Wimbledon. If you want to understand why this moment is not just about tennis, why this is something much bigger, then stay here, because we are just getting started. And if you haven't followed Pro Tennis 360 yet, now is the time to do it, because stories like this, we never let you miss. Numbers don't lie, but they know how to tell stories. Let's talk about numbers, because in tennis, numbers are the most honest thing you can find. 9 wins, 2 losses on grass in 1 season. That is a record that veteran players twice Eala's age would be proud of. But that number is just the tip of the iceberg. The sunken part is what is truly terrifying. The match against Rybakina in Berlin, Eala won 19 points from her opponent's second serve return. Rybakina only won 9 similar points from Eala's second serve. Stop and think about that. Rybakina is a player with one of the most dangerous serves on the WTA Tour. She is a former Wimbledon champion. She serves in a way that opponents usually don't have time to react to before the ball is already over the net. Yet Eala is doubling her on second serve return points, on grass, where the ball bounces low and reaction time is almost non-existent. This is not luck, this is technique. Eala is a world-class returner. That is not a subjective opinion. It is what the numbers confirm time and again in her biggest wins. She doesn't wait for the point to develop. She shortens the point from the very first shot, putting her opponent on the defensive before they can build any rhythm. On grass, that becomes exceptionally dangerous. The ball bounces lower, the hitting angles are compressed, and Eala's left-handedness creates slicing angles that right-handed opponents never get to practice against adequately. Greg Rusetsky, the former British number 1, who knows grass courts literally and figuratively, remarked that the grass surface allows Eala to hit the ball earlier, harder, and her left-handed slice serve skids away in a way that is particularly difficult to read. He is right about that part. But there is something deeper that surface tactical analysis often misses.
Eala is not just taking advantage of the grass court. She has found a way for the grass surface to amplify every single strength in her arsenal, while hiding the spots that opponents could exploit. That is the difference between a player who plays well on grass and a player who was born to dominate on grass. And this summer of 2026, Eala is showing the world which group she belongs to. Renata Zarazua, don't let the trap of complacency swallow you. This is where lazy analysis will say, Eala wins easily, on to the next round. And that is exactly the kind of analysis that can make you look foolish after the match. Renata Zarazua, 28 years old, from Mexico, ranked 76th in the world. This is her third time participating in the Wimbledon main draw. In 2024, she lost to Elena Rybakina 7-6, 6-3. Not a blowout loss, but a loss in a real contest against the home player cheered on loudly by the crowd. In 2025, she reached the second round before losing to Amanda Anisimova 6-4, 6-3. That is not the profile of someone who doesn't know how to play on grass. It is the profile of a player who has learned to survive in the strange psychological ecosystem that Wimbledon creates in the early rounds. But here is the detail that truly caught my attention. In August 2024, at an ITF tournament, Zarazua defeated Eala 6-3, 4-6, 3-6. 3 sets. Zarazua won the first set. Then Eala turned the tables and won the second and third sets. But the key point is, Zarazua won. She had Eala on the court, read the left-handed serve, understood where Eala's forehand wanted to go, and felt the speed variations that Eala created. In tennis, knowledge of your opponent is a form of insurance, and Zarazua holds at least a piece of it. There is one more layer. Last year at Roland Garros, these two played doubles together, reaching the second round. Zarazua knows Eala not just as an opponent, she knows Eala as a teammate. She has stood on the same side of the net as Eala, watched her handle pressure, and observed how she reacts when the score is down. That familiarity cuts both ways. Zarazua understands Eala's strengths, but Eala also understands Zarazua's tendencies. The question is not whether Eala has the ability to win. She has plenty. The question is whether she shows up with the right mindset from the very first point. And that is a much more interesting question. New pressure, seeded for the first time at a Grand Slam. There is one thing no one talks enough about regarding this moment, and I want to speak straight about it. This is the first time in Eala's career that she enters a Grand Slam with the status of a seeded player. It sounds like a good thing, and it is. But it carries a completely different kind of pressure that those who haven't experienced it simply don't understand. When you are a wild card, you are the one no one expects anything from. Every win is a welcome surprise. Every loss is explained away as, of course, she's just a wild card. The psychological pressure goes in only one direction, forward. When you are a seed, everything reverses completely. Now you are the player expected to win. Every error is no longer, she is trying. It becomes, why did she make that mistake? Every broken serve is no longer an incident. It becomes a warning sign. Your brain begins to process the score differently. 0-30 in the fifth game of the first set feels significantly heavier than when you are a wild card. I have witnessed many good players struggle with exactly that transition phase. From underdog to favorite. From the person with everything to gain to the person with everything to lose. Last year at Wimbledon, Eala lost to Barbora Krejcikova in the first round, 3-6, 6-2, 6-1.
A remarkable turnaround in the second and third sets, suggesting that Krejcikova found something in Eala's game halfway through and exploited it. The summer before that, Eala also had a good warm-up grass season, then failed again in the first round of Wimbledon. This is the pattern she needs to break in 2026. And based on what I saw in Berlin, especially that 0-30, 5-2 moment in the second set against Svitolina, when she won 4 consecutive points to close out the match, I believe the improvements are real. Not on paper, truly. In the way she stands behind the baseline when the score is down. In the way she selects her shots under pressure. But Berlin is not Wimbledon, and Zarazua is not Svitolina. The real question is, which version of Eala will show up on Monday? Anatomy of a lefty, why grass is Eala's home court. Now let me explain what surface commentators often overlook. Why is the grass court surface particularly suited to Eala so well? Not just suited in the ordinary sense, suited in a way that feels almost custom designed. It starts with the serve.
Eala is left-handed. On grass, the left-handed slice serve skids outward in the deuce court with a cutting angle that is nearly impossible to read if you are right-handed. The ball bounces low, skidding out past the tram line, forcing the opponent to run wide and preventing them from attacking back effectively. That is a structural advantage, not luck, not hype, structure. Next is the return. I mentioned the number of 19 return points Eala won off Rybakina's second serve. But why is that number particularly terrifying on grass? Because on grass, reaction time is extremely shortened. The ball arrives faster, bounces lower, and players usually have to defend rather than attack off the return. Eala does the opposite. She attacks the return. She shortens the point from the very first shot, putting her opponent on the defensive even when they have just finished serving. On grass, when angles are compressed and the ball doesn't bounce high enough for the opponent to build topspin, this early attacking style of play becomes a weapon that is almost impossible to counter. Then comes the footwork. In this 2026 grass season, Eala's footwork has visibly improved. She has learned how to move on an uneven surface, something that troubles many players coming from a hardcourt background, and shifts her weight at the right moment to maximize hitting power without losing balance. The combination of those three factors, a left-handed serve on grass, an attacking return, and better footwork, creates a playing style that is particularly dangerous on this surface. Grass doesn't just suit Eala. Grass amplifies her in a way that other surfaces have not yet done to the same degree. That is why this summer is different from every summer before, and that is why I think Wimbledon 2026 could be the Grand Slam where Eala goes deepest ever. The Berlin moment, when she stopped being surprised by herself. Production note: B-roll of Berlin WTA 500. Close-up reaction shots after key points. Eala's post-match interview clip. "I'm still shaking." That was the sentence Eala said after defeating Rybakina in Berlin, after playing one of the most controlled, courageous, and structurally intelligent matches of tennis I have watched this season. I find that sentence particularly fascinating, because the tennis she played wasn't shaking at all. That is the transition point, when a player's body and emotions haven't caught up to their brain's awareness of what they are capable of doing. When your game has evolved past what you thought you were capable of, but your nervous system doesn't fully believe it yet. The truly great players are the ones who close that gap.
From "I'm still shaking after winning" to "Of course I won." And I think Berlin was the starting point of that transition for Eala. Look at the specific moment. Set 2, Game 7, Eala leading 5-2 against Svitolina, 0-30. 2 more points and Svitolina could break serve, close the gap, and push the match into an uncertain zone. Eala won that point, then the next point, then the next, then the next. 4 consecutive points to close the game, close the set, close the match. Not because her opponent suddenly played worse, but because Eala chose the right shot under pressure. Not the safe shot, the right shot. That is the difference between a good player and a truly dangerous player. A good player will play defensively at 0-30 when leading 5-2. A dangerous player will attack. Eala attacked. After beating Rybakina and Svitolina within 24 hours, after reaching the semifinals of a WTA 500 as a wildcard on grass, what I see is the sign of a player who is beginning to internalize, truly internalize, what competing at the absolute top looks like. Not learning it, internalizing it. That is a completely different step, and that is why Wimbledon this year feels different. Not because of good form, but because she is becoming a different player. The Philippines and Wimbledon, a story bigger than tennis. There are moments in sports that go beyond the results on the scoreboard, when tennis is no longer just tennis, but something else, something that a nation, a culture, millions of people have been waiting for a long time. This is one of those moments. Earlier this year at the Australian Open, when Eala went out for her first-round match, thousands of Filipinos flooded Melbourne Park. The BBC described lines of people waiting that stretched hundreds of meters past the show court. Not because Melbourne is geographically close to the Philippines, but because for them,
This was the moment they had waited for their whole lives. Wimbledon amplifies everything up to a completely different level. The all-white dress code, the centuries-old grass lawns, the names of the courts, Center Court, Court 1, the weight of sporting history in every centimeter of the All England Club. All of these things make every single point, every game, every set carry a weight unlike any other tournament on the planet. When Eala steps onto the court against Zarazua, she does not step out alone. It has never been that way. But here, at Wimbledon, it carries an extra depth that is hard to express in words. She is the first Filipino to be seeded here, in a tournament with a history of over a century. That means something not just to those who follow tennis. It means something to people who have never watched a tennis match in their lives, but know that their country just got a representative in the most sacred place of this sport. That is the power of a historic moment. It doesn't ask if you're a tennis fan. It only demands that you know who you are and what your nation is. And when Eala hits the first serve of that match, the entire Philippines, in a sense, will hold its breath at the same time. That is not a tennis story. It is a story about culture, about identity, about the ability of a single human being to carry the expectations of millions and still compete as if it were just her and the ball on the court. Eala has learned how to do that. And that is something more terrifying than any number I have cited. Tactics: how Eala needs to play to finish quickly and clearly. Let's talk about tactics, because this is where I want to push back a little against the conventional wisdom.
Many people will say, Eala needs to manage this match, play solid, avoid unforced errors, let Zarazua make the mistakes herself. I think that is a mistake, completely wrong. Eala is at her best when she plays dictatorial tennis. She sets the rhythm, she shortens the points, she takes away her opponent's time before they can build any momentum. That is her tennis in its most dangerous form. Defensive tennis, managing the match, waiting for errors, will only invite Zarazua into the fight. And Zarazua is a player who beat Eala in the first set of that ITF match in 2024. She knows how to fight. She knows how to stay in it. Eala needs to attack from the very first serve. Specifically, serve wide out in the deuce court to push Zarazua off the court, then follow up with an inside-out forehand to control the center of the court. Repeat and repeat until Zarazua no longer knows where the ball is coming from. Return game. Attack Zarazua's second serve. Don't hit just to put the ball in play. Hit to finish the point, just like she did with Rybakina, just like she did with Svitolina. She said it herself before one of her big wins in Berlin. I want to attack from the first serve and then all the points after that. That is not a slogan. That is a game plan, and it works. The only risk is that she gets dragged into meaningless, extended rallies when she is already leading in points. That is when the pressure of being a seeded player can show up and make her play more defensively than necessary. If Eala brings an attacking mindset from the first point to the last point, Zarazua will stand no chance. If she defends, waits, manages, Zarazua will have a chance. And in tennis, a chance is all an experienced player needs. Attack is the answer, right from the first point. Comparison with last year, why 2026 is truly different. Last year, Eala lost to Barbora Krejcikova in the first round of Wimbledon, 3-6, 6-2, 6-1. Looking at that scoreline, you see a worryingly familiar story. Eala won the first set, then her opponent found something halfway through and exploited it ruthlessly in the second and third sets. That was the pattern. A good warm-up season before Wimbledon, followed by a first-round defeat at the Grand Slam. That is not a coincidence. It is something that needed to be addressed structurally. The question this year, has what happened to her in that Krejcikova match been resolved, or can a patient, experienced opponent still exploit it? Based on what I have seen in the 2026 grass season, the answer is she has truly improved. Better footwork, noticeably. The way she moves on the uneven grass surface is no longer reactive, it is more proactive. She starts from the correct position instead of making late adjustments. Better decision-making under pressure. The 0-30 moment against Svitolina was not an accident. It was the product of a player who has learned to trust her game in the most critical moments. Better match-reading ability. She doesn't just execute a game plan, she adjusts the game plan when necessary. That is a step forward in maturity that cannot be faked. But Wimbledon is Wimbledon. A Grand Slam is something else entirely compared to a WTA 500. The pressure, the visibility, the history of the tournament, all of these things create a psychological context that no other tournament can simulate. In 2025, Krejcikova found something in Eala's game mid-match. The question is, what was that thing? And has it been patched up? If the answer is yes, if the 2026 Eala has locked down the vulnerabilities that Krejcikova exploited, then this is not a story about an exciting first round. This is a story about Eala going truly deep at a Grand Slam for the first time. I lean toward that side.
But the grass courts of Wimbledon will be the final judge. She is no longer a story about potential. She is the story right now. There comes a moment in an athlete's career when all descriptions of potential become obsolete. When you are no longer the person who is about to do something, you are the person who is doing it. Alex Eala has arrived at that moment. Not after Wimbledon, not if she makes a deep run to the fourth round, not when she wins her first Grand Slam. That moment already happened on the court in Berlin, when she stood across from Rybakina in the first set with a breakdown and chose to attack instead of defend, and won. That is the mark of a true player, not the result, the choice. Wimbledon 2026 is not Eala's final destination. This is a stage in the journey, a historic stage, acknowledged, but still a stage. She has many years of competing ahead of her, many Grand Slams, many moments that we cannot predict. But this moment, this specific one, the first Filipino to be seated at Wimbledon, 21 years old, with a 9-2 grass season record and 2 consecutive top 10 victories within 24 hours, this moment will be remembered. Regardless of what happens on the court against Zarazua on Monday, regardless of how deep she goes into the draw this year, history has been written, and the rest are the next pages being written in real time, right in front of all of us. Greg Rusetsky said he cannot wait to see what the crowd will be like for her opening match at Wimbledon this year. Neither can I. Because when Eala steps onto center court, or whichever court the All England club assigns, she does not step out alone. She steps out along with a nation, a culture, and millions of people watching with their hearts in their chests. And her task, as she said for herself before Berlin, is simple. Be brave from the very first point. That is all she needs. If you want to follow this journey, every match, every moment, with deep analysis that nowhere else provides, then Pro Tennis 360 is where you need to be. Subscribe to the channel today. Turn on notifications. Because the story of Eala at Wimbledon 2026 will wait for no one.